So I think ultimately the biggest problem in esports is that because it's not a hugely profitable company industry, you have to hire cheap and work hard, right? And actually, you honestly see this in a lot in engineering. So I kind of wonder if work-life balance in esports is over-exaggerated or not. So going back to work-life balance right now, and how did this happen? How did I go from 50 hours, 50 to 60 hours, to 40 to 50 hours? Okay, actually, first thing is probably leverage, strategic career choices, and improving efficiency. I think those are the three things that come to the top of my head right now. So the leverage, literally, I have leverage because I am good at my job. Good at my job. People like working with me. People like working with me. And becoming less replaceable. Right? I think this is really, really important. I actually have leverage, right? If I was going to leave my job and I gave my company an ultimatum, I probably could come out very favorable on that, right? And that's because like I'm good at my job. I keep working on projects that are profitable and helpful to the company. I keep doing a good job at it. The team likes working with me. I get a lot of positive feedback about my attitude. I get feedback from coworkers. It's just like how much they like me around, and I have good rapport and good relationships with my coworkers, whether I like them or not, which I like them. But I always did this, like even in engineering. And because of all this stuff, like I'm just not replaceable. And because my job wants to keep me happy, because I have a good boss, because I work for a good company, good org, like they want to keep me around. They want to keep me happy. They don't want to overwork me. So when I say things like I can't do this or I can do this, they can't push back as hard, right? And I also come back with like good reasoning. For example, this week, every week I try to make a meme video, and they don't. They perform. They're probably our best performing thing on social, but the problem is that it takes up probably a full day or 2 days to do it, and on top of that, I have to really be on top of what's going on in the scene, which is really tough. Last week we had our 3-0 against TSM. It's a big week, so if we meme something, it would have been very good. It would have performed well if we meme something about TSM, right? But the problem was I have other freelancers that I have to work with that I'm trying to make their job like and their life enjoyable, and I don't want to just ignore them when they need stuff from me. I want to help them, and I'm trying to make their job as easy as possible. And there's other things that are more profitable in the company that I could be working on than a social media video. So therefore, like when it came down to it, I didn't have time. And then when I tell my boss like, "Hey, I don't have time," and this has to drop, even though it's like it was kind of important and priority, ultimately he takes my word for it, and I'm able to like help make those decisions and cut things, right? He could tell me to work on it, and then I'd have to spend an extra 20 hours or 10 hours, and suddenly I'm working, instead of 40 hours a week, I'm working 60 hours a week, right? So because I have all this leverage, because the company wants me at the company, I'm able to dictate some terms. And also, it depends on what your job is. So I think I made strategic career choices. I'm not doing social media management because I don't want to be on the ball all the time. I want to turn off my phone. I want to step away from the computer. I want to step away from League and WoW and all these other games. Like I don't want to be on the pulse every single day, 100%. And that's what social media management do. So I stopped doing that. I said I don't want to do this anymore. I want to step away from that and work on like maybe content creation. Less editing. I'm doing less editing because also when it comes to my future career, I saw that I probably be putting a lot more time into this. I don't think my career trajectory looks the way I want it to be as an editor. So I decided I don't want to do as much editing work. Instead, I'm trying to do more managerial work. So my focus right now is being a product manager. And luckily I'm in a space where I can still like edit and be creative and help with social and help with our YouTube channel. But ultimately, I wanted to find something that would fit my future goals. And that would be like work-life balance, work from home flexibly, gain skills if I have to go solo, freelance again, and still make money. Still make money. Like this is a huge thing when it comes to like having a baby. Like once we have a baby, and I fully believe that my wife's earning potential is much higher than mine. And she's like, she works really well and she's really good at her job. So that's why like if we have a baby, like I want to be able to stay at home and take care of it, right? And be able to work from home. And because of that, I can't work 60 hours a week and take care of a baby, or at least that's going to be really hard and I don't want to deal with that. So all these things that made me decide to like try to become a product manager, and I've talked to my boss about this a lot, and we're shaping my tasks and everything towards this. And I'll be honest, this isn't as fun as doing social media management or editing for me, but I think this is gonna lead to me being more happy and my future goals, which I think is really important. I'm really trying to figure out what will make me happy, and working more hours in esports is not something that's going to make me happy in the future. So therefore, I'm going to figure out how to do that. And again, it's because I have leverage. I'm thinking about like my career, and think about esports. The fun thing about esports is that there's always more work than always more work to be done, right? I did this exercise where I started tracking my time. And that week, I probably worked 40 hours. Maybe even like I might have worked 38 hours, but it was the most exhausting week I've ever had because I was on for 8 hours a day. I was literally working every minute of my day, like at 100%. That's something I don't want to do. Honestly, I'd rather work 45 hours a week or even 40 hours a week and put in like 30 hours of really, really hard work time because it's so exhausting. Maybe if it's something like editing where I can kind of coast, that might be better. But if I'm working 40 hours, like really hard, efficient, productive hours, while I'm talking with freelancers, brainstorming content ideas, testing content ideas, doing research, like that's really taxing on the brain. That's really hard. I saw a stat, or I heard a stat, that the average American is working 1.5 hours a day. I'm like, wow, that is pathetic. And then I remember, like, as an engineer, I probably worked realistically like 3 hours a day. Some days I came in, barely did any work, answered emails, and I didn't like really do anything. There were some days in engineering where I worked like 10 hours straight and I was just dead tired when I got home. Like it was absolutely exhausting, right? So ultimately, I think what happened was improving my efficiency in work helped me work less hours. Like I clock in less hours, but I would say I work so much more effectively, right? This comes from rest, like getting good sleep. This requires strong organization, motivation, and goals, I would say. I had to really like make sure my to-do list and my notebooks and all things I had to do were really spot on to just keep me going really hard. And ultimately getting better at your job like makes this happen. Because if I'm trying to figure out like how to edit, but then I have to spend every 15 minutes looking up a tutorial, that takes me out of the flow and knocks me out of flow state. So staying in flow state is also a big thing. I'd say that's pretty huge. So because I've done all this kind of stuff, that means I have a better work-life balance. 40, 50 hours a week. I know some people would say they only work 40, but I love what I do. At least I love my job. I care about my job. I feel impactful about my job. It gives me happiness. So I'm happy to work 50 hours a week on something that does that for me. So I think ultimately the biggest problem in esports is that because it's not a hugely profitable company industry, you have to hire cheap and work hard, right? And actually, you honestly see this in a lot in engineering. So I kind of wonder if work-life balance in esports is over exaggerated or not. I definitely think you find more people that work like 80-hour weeks in esports than in other industries. But for the most part, if you're good at your job and you have a good company, you don't have to go crazy. And it's because you're trying to make the company money, right? If you have good leadership and good hiring and good skills, I don't think you have to work like crazy. But that's not the situation for everyone. So I think you do have to pay your dues because ultimately, again, esports doesn't make a ton of money. They're losing money for most organizations and most companies. So therefore, like finding ways to make money is very, very necessary. And because people might not be good enough at their jobs, or hiring is not able to hire people good enough at their jobs, or the people leadership is not able to have the right business model or approach to esports. Therefore, people need to add more hours to it. But I also think there's something where there is a diminishing returns on investment. Think about the hours you spend and the efficiency of the output, right? You spend this much time, you're good, you're good, you're good. You're increasing return. But then after a certain point, after 40 hours a week, after 20 hours a week, after 80 hours a week, whatever that number is, you know, each hour you put returns less for that hour compared to this. And at some point, you actually have a worse product because you're just spending too much time. You're burning out. The next project next week because you didn't get enough sleep and you were overworked yourself. Like is bad and not as effective. I think this happens in esports, and I think business models happen like this. Um, if Team Liquid put out a documentary video that was 80% polished as it comes out now, does that hurt viewership? If they had a typo in one of the lower thirds, does that hurt viewership? I don't think so. So therefore, the amount of polish and effort and maybe pride that people take in their work, or where they might be focusing on putting their hours and efforts into the wrong things that aren't value added. I think that's where a lot of people can burn out too. And that's again like what improving efficiencies. It hurts my soul a little bit when we put out like Upsurge is one of the YouTube channels we just started. Like these thumbnails, actually they're getting a lot better. But these thumbnails aren't like super uh great and amazing works of art, right? They're just text, some good or bad crops, and they're not like they don't look amazing like Matt Diavella's thumbnails, for example. They're not these works of art, right? But this gets the job done. He's got 32K views on this. So if you spent 15 hours creating this in Photoshop, but an hour trying to figure out the thumbnail and title, versus if you spent the same amount of time but spend more time on creating the thumbnail, like the actual process of creating the thumbnail in Photoshop versus figuring out the title and thumbnail, what's going to be more effective? What's a better use of your time? Probably spending more time thinking about and coming up with the right thumbnail and title concept. So I think that's a huge thing where people are not spending allocating their time correctly, or sorry, efficiently. And a lot of that is because of our pride and our perfectionism in esports. And if that's not sustainable, then that is probably the wrong choice.